Welcome to the GPLama YouTube channel and to my hands-on review of the new SRAM Red AXS for 2024. This video will be split into 3 different sections. Firstly, I'll do a speed run through of everything that's new for those short on time. Secondly, we'll have a really close look at some side-by-side comparisons of new versus old when it comes to the levers. There's some significant changes there externally and internally. There's been some updates to the rotors and the calipers, and we'll have a look at everything else that's new. And then it's onto my hands-on experience with this group set after riding it for the last 2 months on this bike here. Okay, straight to the key features and what's new. It's 12-speed, disc-only, dot fluid and no UDH. Hopefully within the first few seconds that answers a lot of questions right there. The levers have a new shape, they're a much easier pull. There is bonus buttons now included and it has no auxiliary ports. The front derailleur has a redefined shape, I believe it's a little thinner, and now has auto trim. With the rear derailleur, there is one derailleur to rule them all. The cassette support is from a 1028 through 1036, and for the eagle-eyed viewers, no, that is not a magic wheel. It looks like one, but it is not. On the cranks and power meter side of things, just a small phase shift with the size offerings. Now coming in 160 through 175, previously the offerings were 165 through 177.5. The power meter technology is the proven Quark tech, so SRAM sticking with a good thing there. Rear cassette for the Red now comes in 1030 and 1036 options. Rainbow is offered on all of those as well. And do note, the 28 is the smallest large cog on the back. So times have changed. On the chain, still flat top, cutouts now on the outer plate, shaving up to 13 grams. There's new brake calipers with a small design change internally for the piston push, so I might dig into that at a later date. The rotors have had a new design, center lock only, coming in 140 and 160mm options. And the overall weight, they claim here to shave around 154 grams off from a comparable configuration from the old versus new. Okay, that's a speed run summary of everything that's new, and I'm sure there's a few SRAM product managers out there screaming about how cruel it is to compress many, many years of work into about 90 seconds of video. Right, let's take a close look of new versus old. Starting here with the most obvious difference that people spot with the new SRAM Red AXS, and that's to the levers themselves with quite a substantial redesign. How substantial? Well, the common saying is a picture tells 1,000 words, and here is, well, I'm going to speak at less than 1,000 words about this, but this is the old versus new lever shape. So quite, as I said, a substantial upgrade and difference with them. Starting off with the height, so a little lower on the front end, a little bit further reach, so that will need to be factored in if you're really in tune with your bike fit. But to the lever paddle, that is a lot further out, and they do have adjustment for reach and pad engagement, so there is still full adjustability. But it is quite a significant change. The hood covers, or grips, also have some interesting texture, giving you some angle indicators for installation. Now, they're just a serving suggestion. These were definitely not the angles that I used for most comfort on the bike. But another thing we can see there is that the paddle has some outward flare too. On to another very interesting diagram here with the internals shown with the old versus new. Old obviously on the left, new on the right, and the most obvious change there is to the piston. The piston going from a vertical configuration to a horizontal configuration. And I believe that is the key reason why the pull on the new red levers is a lot easier. Another side-by-side, new versus old with the calipers and rotors. The old there on the left, the new one there on the right with a new carrier and a new brake track and some significant changes, again that word significant, to the calipers themselves. The new ones looking more bare bones and obviously being a little lighter. Side by side, old versus new with the rear derailleur, using the battery as the scale to get these 1-for-1 as best I could. And you can see some significant changes there to the cage and the jockey wheels. A similar side-by-side comparison with the front derailleurs with not a lot of change up top, but down below, some big changes there to that front mechanism. And finally with these close looks, yes, everything does come in rainbow now, and there's a look at the new chain with the cutouts on the outer plates. Now for the full list of component weights and prices, etc., there is an overload of information that I won't cover here. I'll put links in the video description below when I find this information online. Now on to my hands-on experience with this group set after riding it for the last 2 months or so. And firstly, I'll say that I am a huge fan of Shimano Di2 road group sets. Putting aside their power meter, their semi-wireless setup, and their shitty software, my road bikes have Shimano Di2 11-speed and 12-speed, and I think it is brilliant. Now on the gravel side of things, when it comes to one buy, it's all about SRAM AXS for me. And this bike here is probably the one I've ridden the most in the last 4 years, and it does have the previous generation SRAM Red levers on it. Now these two things I believe put me in a pretty good position to be able to compare the latest offerings from Shimano and now SRAM and also to be very, very familiar with both the old and the new SRAM Red levers. So my first impressions of this group set when jumping on for the first time is that it is characteristically a SRAM Red group set. That shift logic is still the same, the shift speed also probably about the same, noting that there is a small delay built in when there's a double tap logic assigned. So again, characteristically SRAM, but I had no problems at all dumping through gears when I needed. Now the two things that I'll focus on for this hands-on review are the front derailleur and the new levers. So the front derailleur and those front shifts, it is rock solid. Yes, big news. And given this was a loaner bike, I rode it like I borrowed it and really tried to throw that chain off. Couldn't do it. Now with the double press action assignment, it's almost impossible to capture a front change. Maybe tilt your phone or tilt your head for this. I was also using compensating shift mode, similar to semi-synchro on DO2, and I had zero issues. So I am really interested to hear the experience that others have had with the new front derailleur design. Have they finally solved it? In my experience, it's been rock solid. I guess time will tell. Now, one thing I would love to see is a change to the shifting logic for the axis button assignment. At present, there's only a change option for the front derailleur. If it's in the big ring, it will go to small. If it's in the small, it will go to big. I'd love to see, now we have those new buttons, the ability to assign an upshift and a downshift for the front derailleur. And maybe, just maybe, allowing them to remove that slight delay introduced for that double press logic when it's configured. I did raise this with SRAM, and the answer wasn't a no. So fingers crossed there, we might see something in the future. Now onto the brakes, levers or levers, whatever you'd like to call them, and they are what I would consider the hero upgrade of all the components in this group set refresh. Now we've seen the updated shape and the updated internals, but what I can't show you on here is the updated pull action. It is so much better. SRAM claimed 80% less effort from the hoods, 33% less effort from the drops, which is a significant improvement. They're now very similar to Shimano Hydro road brakes. So when switching bikes for the last 2 months from my gravel bike with the previous red levers to the Orca with the new red levers, I had to be careful. Often on this bike, I'd be riding along and grab too much brake and stop very quickly. Now yesterday when I was out taking these photos, two riders I knew came past and said g'day, and they were both riding SRAM group sets. So I said to them, hey, just grab a hold of these levers and let me know what you think. Their reaction was priceless. I really should have filmed it. It was the same as mine when first grabbing these brakes. Now when it comes to the reach and possible change in position with a few mil difference, it was hard to tell as I was on a new bike, not my own. Now in regard to the reach and more finger real estate, I did like being able to fit all 4 fingers under the lever. On the old red I could only fit 3. And under full braking things could get a little squishy under there. Not a problem with the new levers. A little more detail on the bonus buttons, and they're handy but I wouldn't call them essential. They can be configured in 2 modes, the first mode being axis action assignment, so for gear shifts and things like that. Secondly, they can be configured as ANT plus shift function set modes, giving you interaction with a compatible bike computer. On release day, that is the Karoo, and very soon that will be other bike computers as well. Now when configured for bike computer control, it's not an instant interaction with the bike computer. It might take a second or two for those screens to change or that action to execute. If you've used Shimano D-Fly in the past for a similar function, you'll know what I'm talking about. Likely a limitation of the ANT Plus protocol it's using. Now the rubber hoods or covers on these levers still appear to be in place. They're not stretched or sloppy, which is a common occurrence with the previous red levers. And the lever fit onto the bars seems a little more streamlined, with less bumps and sharp edges as the previous generation red levers. So overall, I'll give the new levers an 8.5 out of 10, losing 1 point as they're not quite as curved right here as the Shimano 12-speed levers are. And I'm shaving off another half point for the position of those bonus buttons. They're just a little bit too high. A little lower, I think I'd use them a lot more. Now, a lot of the time when I'm out riding with this new equipment on the bike, I'm asking myself, is this what I would use if there was no reviews, no cameras, no social media, and no one watching? Does this equipment improve my experience on the bike? And when it comes to the levers, yes, it does improve the experience. So with that, my order is going in for a set of these for the gravel bike ASAP. And when it comes to that front derailleur, well, I don't own a bike with a SRAM front derailleur on it. This one will be going back after this review. But I am keen to see how it goes in the field, especially in the World Tour. If anyone's dropping chains, it's those guys and girls. So let's see how it holds up. All right, with that, we'll leave it there. That's my take on the new SRAM Red group set, some welcome upgrades, and some significant improvements to those levers and that front derailleur. Now, hopefully you found this informative. If you have, give it a thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber to this channel. It's much appreciated, and we'll see you soon.